Yo, it's your boy Ryan, Northwest Sports Fanatics, back at you with a new video. Today is Saturday, May 10th, 2025, with your boy Ryan and the Northwest Sports Fanatics. Make sure you guys subscribe to the channel. Smash that like button either now or on your way out. Donate to your boy if you can. Cash App $ ORION NWSF or the YouTube Super Chat right here. We got WWE Backlash 2025 in St. Louis. We're going to get started here in just a couple minutes. Let's get locked and loaded. We got a nice card. We got 5 matches. And obviously, we're going to end it off with the main event with John Cena versus Randy Orton, maybe for the last damn time. Let's go, baby. Odin getting us started with a $5 dono. Appreciate you, my guy. 95 to go. And we got Dominic Mysterio and versus Penta, Jacob Fatu versus Drew McIntyre versus LA Knight versus Damian Priest, Pat McAfee versus Gunther, Lyra Valkyria versus Becky Lynch, and then the main event, John Cena versus Randy Orton. Let's go.
This is St. Louis, Missouri. The gateway to the West. In a city deeply rooted in
Let's get on my screens and everything set up.
mighty Mississippi. St. Louis is home to the Major League Baseball's Cardinals and also the Blues, which play in this building, the Enterprise Center, which is sold out at home tonight with WWE Backlash. Well, anyways, I feel responsible for this.
Pat McAfee making his way to the ring. Hasn't been in a match in a minute, but typically, steps up to the level of competition based off his opponent. And we see Gunther next, getting out of the bus. Lyra Valkyria, women's intercontinental champion, going against Becky Lynch. And I like it that with this, kind of format with Triple H, with creative, where you're not doing, 7, 8, 9 matches, in a typical PLE where you have just a few filler matches. Sometimes less is more. And as we see Randy Orton stepping out of the bus, and obviously being in his hometown there in St. Louis. Not really sure what the chances are of him winning here today, but obviously the fans there locally are very big on Randy Orton, which they should be. And I think that we're going to be starting it off with the Fatal 4-Way. It was rumored that it was either going to be the Fatal 4-Way or we were going to start here with Dom and Penta, but I'm pretty sure we're going to go with the Fatal 4-Way based on what the pre-show mentioned. So. So I'm pretty sure this is where we're going here. United States Championship, Fatal 4-Way. And then, again, we'll see what format that they go throughout the match if they end up going with this second. And then, obviously, Pat McAfee and Gunther, Lyra and Becky. And then we obviously know that this will be the main event with, obviously, John Cena and Randy Orton. Like, sub, donate, comment, share. If you haven't smashed that like button yet, please do. We'll be shooting for 20 likes within the first hour, 30 to 50 overall, and obviously 100 in the donos on every single stream. We're at 95 to go. Shout out to my boy Odin's son. And let's get settled in for the next, I don't know, maybe 3.5 hours. Since we only have 5 matches, I doubt it's going to, end up being in the 4-hour range. I would assume 3 hours, 3 hours and 30 minutes, somewhere in that general range. All right, here we go. Opening fireworks at WWE Backlash 2025 in St. Louis. Let's go.
St. Louis, Missouri. We are sold out with 17,155 WWE fans on hand. WWE Backlash.
And I assume we're going to start off here with the Fatal 4-Way. There he is, LA Knight. LA Knight, yeah. Let's go. Good way to start it off with a good pop. Damian Priest, LA Knight, Jacob Fatu, and Drew McIntyre. Hey, Knight, yeah.
Everybody at ringside tonight, I'm Michael Cole for Monday Night Raw. He's my character. Friday Night SmackDown, the normal bunch of Black will be here tonight because here's a match with Gunther later on. But what a way to kick off the night for the U.S. title. Yeah, what is likely to be one of the most physical matches of the year. Championship on the line, packed arena, and they are bellowing out support for the megastar LA Knight.
What's good? WWE Backlash 2025 there in St. Louis, starting it off with the Fatal 4-Way. And we'll see, what we get here within the first, hour and a half, because I do have a Mariner game that's coming on at 6:40. So if things end up being a little light, I may end it early and then just do the Mariner game later tonight. So we'll kind of play it by ear and see how it goes, but I definitely lost a tough one yesterday. Didn't give our best performance, but today is another day to be able to shine. And, when you play a team like the Blue Jays, it's going to be tough. It's going to be a battle. And then I'll be doing the rubber match tomorrow at 1 for Mother's Day. And then Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, we face the Yankees at home. They're at T-Mobile Park. So, oh my God, Drew McIntyre making his way to the ring. To me, he is the best big man in wrestling today. Best talker, best wrestler as far as in-ring skill set. And this should be interesting to see how this goes. Oh, man, I don't know. I mean, what we want as fans may be completely different what creative thinks. I mean, we would assume that Damian Priest has the least likely chance to win. I would think we could all agree to that. I like Fatu, with the belt. Now, are guys like LA Knight and Drew McIntyre, enticing enough where, could they be the guy that ends up winning here today? Of course. But I feel with Jacob Fatu and just the way that the fans have embraced him. For me personally, I'm a big Drew guy. I mean, he's my favorite out of these 4 guys in the ring, but I think that Jacob Fatu retaining would be best for business. So, we'll see where it goes, but that's where I would go. It's starting right now. So the first match hasn't started yet, but they're doing intros right now. LA Knight just got introduced. Drew McIntyre just made his way into the ring. And then obviously we have Damian Priest and Jacob Fatu next. And then the Fatal 4-Way will start. So, but as far as the matches, no match has started yet. But the actual Backlash program, yes, has started. But I mean, if I had to go down a pecking order on who I would want to win, I would have Jacob Fatu retain 1. Drew McIntyre 2, LA Knight 3, and then, last Damian Priest. No disrespect against Damian Priest, but it's just, but you never know what angle. Sometimes the person that we think least likely will win. So Damian Priest might end up being the guy that ends up winning here tonight, even though he might be the least likely. So, I feel like WWE has been very unpredictable in this Triple H era. So we'll have to kind of wait and see. I do too, and it's pretty rare when you end up having a fatal four-way where you actually kind of like, each guy, and obviously Damian Priest will be a poor man Scott Hall here in 2025. But again, if you really want to be real about it, the Judgment Day really hasn't been the same type of faction without him in it or without Rhea Ripley. So I feel like those were the two that really made Judgment Day. And with those two out of the group, Judgment Day is kind of lame now. It's not really the same, swaggy faction that, kind of took the WWE universe by storm, in my opinion. Like, does it still exist? Yeah, but it doesn't really have the same kind of feel anymore without Priest or Ripley in the group, in my opinion. So. And decided to go with, obviously, the thumb here. Got to give you John Cena. Got to give you Randy Orton. And then a nice St. Louis background there. Obviously, the arch is covered up right behind John Cena with the Backlash logo. But I think this thumb turned out pretty good. Yeah, LA Knight got a little bit of Stone Cold rock, based on, microphone style and whatnot. But I would agree to that. Yeah, poor man Stone Cold. Priest, poor man Scott Hall. But there is no poor man Jacob Fatu. And again, if they do what's best for business, they keep the belt on him. Again, you don't just have him win and have him drop it. And it's like we've seen Priest with a belt. We've seen LA Knight with a belt. Now, we haven't seen Drew McIntyre, with gold in a minute. And he is definitely deserving. He held it down during the COVID era, right? But again, when there was no fans there. So I do really hope that Drew McIntyre does get the heavyweight championship one day. And if not, and has to settle for like a United States championship or IC belt, until he gets up to that point, so be it. But definitely Jacob Fatu retaining would be best for business. It's on Peacock. So if you have Peacock, I think they have plans as cheap as like $5 a month. So that is the only place that you're going to be able to watch, any WWE PLE. Obviously, Monday Night Raw is on Netflix, but Peacock has the rights, for WWE PLEs or old school terminology pay-per-views. I don't think we really can compare Drew McIntyre to anybody. I think Drew is, again, I feel like one of the best talkers back in the day was Kevin Nash. And I love Kevin Nash and the NWO and him being Diesel. And again, I don't think you can call Drew McIntyre a poor man's Undertaker or a poor man's Kevin Nash. He's great on the mic. He's great in the ring. I guess the closest thing you could compare Drew McIntyre to is maybe what Undertaker. I think that might be the closest, that you could, say that maybe he wrestles kind of like, an Undertaker type, even though he is original in his own skin and whatnot. But look at the crowd. Fatu. He's definitely over. And here we go. But again, I like the combination of these four wrestlers because, you could have these guys in a regular match, but you could also have them, in a hardcore match. You can have them in a TLC match. You could have them in a ladder match. You could have them in a cage match. You can have them in a Brooklyn Brawl, right? You could literally have these guys wrestle any kind of match, and it's going to be entertaining, but obviously the less rules, the better the match is going to be, right? And if you have props involved or other, things involved with the match itself, and again, all these guys are athletic. All of them, can do high risk. All of them can give you something, that's unique to that individual wrestler. And I can't wait to be able to see what we get here. I mean, I'm more of a Fatu Drew McIntyre guy myself, but I do think LA Knight is entertaining, and I always will root for a guy like DDP. Yeah, I will always root for a guy that ends up being over 40 and then finally finds like, his time. And DDP was the same way for WCW back in the day, where, it took a while, for him to get the notoriety and the fame and the recognition. And some guys are a little late bloomers, and DDP was, and LA Knight was. But I think we can all say and agree that even if LA Knight isn't our favorite, or even not in our top 5 or top 10, he's good for business. And he definitely puts on entertaining matches, and he's good on the microphone as well. Fatu is fantastic. Because the thing is you don't see guys that are built like Jacob Fatu that do high-risk maneuvers off the top rope. So regardless if you like the bloodline, the OG bloodline, or the new bloodline, he's a heel through and through. So obviously with the other 3, they can be faces or heels. But with Fatu, again, it's like, imagine, a guy that's built not as big as like a Rikishi, but a guy that could go on the top rope and do moves that a cruiserweight or, someone that would be smaller that could do with ease. So again, that's really the main thing. It's, you have faces and you have heels, but Jacob Fatu, gives you something that we haven't really seen from a Samoan, Polynesian kind of wrestler. Most of them are brawlers, and, they're going to be good on the microphone, and they give you a certain type of style and energy. But Fatu gives you kind of that, kind of like craziness as far as being like a wrestling wild card where you don't really know what you're going to get out of him. But really what makes him special is the high risk stuff that he does off the top rope that usually a small guy would do, and it's not like he's fat and he's stout and he's bulky, but you just don't usually see wrestlers with his shape that can do high risk maneuvers, 450 splashes, backflips, front flips, things of that nature at that size. So. But yeah, for me, like I said, I feel like the most entertaining, one, to me by far is Jacob Fatu. But I'm a big Drew guy, and LA Knight and Damian Priest aren't bad. But I definitely feel that Damian Priest, without being associated with Judgment Day, his aura is kind of gone. Like him just being on his own. He's a guy that kind of needs a group around him. And some guys don't need a faction around him, and other guys do. And same thing goes with like Dominic Mysterio. He needs guys around him. He needs like a team around him. And same thing with Damian Priest. But and then other guys like LA Knight and, Drew McIntyre, they don't really need anybody around them. They can stand by themselves and be just fine. Oh, baby. What a move. But, if you really think about it, out of anybody that's in the bloodline, even with the Usos and even with Roman Reigns, Jacob Fatu is the most entertaining bloodline member that we've ever seen. It's just either you get it or you don't. So. I'm never going back there again. I'm going to become a wrestler. I'm going to make some money. And I'm going to destroy people in the process. I'm going to take killer instinct that I learned in jail and take it on everybody here. Obviously, if like Sheamus was younger, he would fit in this fatal 4-way as well. No back down in either one of these men. But McIntyre definitely, deserves gold. It's just, when is his time going to come, and what belt will it be? Will it be United States? Will it be IC? Because, he is a guy that at some point after this John Cena run, maybe, and Seth Rollins and whatnot, maybe Drew will have a chance maybe in 2026, to be the heavyweight champ again. But it's too good not to have gold. That's for damn sure. Plus, you'd like to be able to see passionate wrestlers, and show the craziness and the passion and the aggression and the skill set. And, we just never have seen anybody, like Jacob Fatu. And there's a reason why they have, ended up giving him gold, pretty early. He's over for different reasons than like Dom and some of the others. Some people have catchy, catchphrases like LA Knight. Some people have amazing theme music like Cody Rhodes, but for Fatu, his mic skills, are getting better, with each promo. Still not, like on the Rock level or anything like that, but it's really high risk and just giving everything that he's got and doing moves that you wouldn't think a guy his shape and size can do. That's what makes him special. Nice poke by the eyes by Drew. We got Drew and Fatu. Oh, here we go. And we're going to have some kind of triple team or... That's always cool when you end up having a triple threat or a fatal four-way, because then you end up getting moves that you normally aren't going to see, in a typical one-on-one match or even in a traditional triple threat, depending on who's in the ring together. Fatu making sure he does not slip here. Oh! Oh, baby. We need more wrestlers like Jacob Fatu. We really do. It's all about that passion, that energy, that intensity, nonstop motor. Oh, baby. Fucking Swanton. I mean, he does moves like Matt and Jeff Hardy. It's just wild. Here we go. Everyone busting out their finisher. Ah, nice Claymore. Finisher after finisher after finisher. 2. Good match to start off the WWE Backlash 2025 St. Louis PLE. I agree. I like the Polynesian Samoan, kind of background, and again, it runs very, very deep, with Rikishi and the Usos and The Rock. I mean, it goes way, way back. And I don't mind watching Roman and watching the Usos, Jimmy and Jay, but if I had to choose one guy out of the bloodline or, OG bloodline or the new bloodline, it would be Jacob Fatu, hands down. Yeah, Roman has the popularity and whatnot, but as far as like the wrestling moves and him in the ring, Fatu is more entertaining. I agree. Oh, nice DDT there by Drew. He's like, you get one. Dirty deeds, dirty deeds. Come on, Drew. I mean, even though Drew is my favorite big man in WWE and has been for quite some time, I still would rather have Fatu retain. Drew's better than this belt. Whoa, that was close. That was close. It almost sounded like the ref's hand hit 3 there. That was really close. Like almost Damian Priest came in a little late there to pull the ref out. Oh, damn. Over the barrier. Nice headbutt by Fatu. And not only does Fatu have the coolest moveset out of these 4 guys in the ring, you could argue his moveset might be one of the best in the whole entire WWE. It's not really that often you get a guy that's a heel that's this super over, but, you know, wrestling fans aren't dumb. They appreciate greatness. Yeah. Nice elbow drop by LA Knight. Very Macho Man-esque. 2. Oh, here we go. What are we going to get? We're going to get a Razor's Edge right here. Razor's Edge. Little Scott Hall action. Let's do it. I don't want to see my guy get thrown off here, but, oh, they're just going to do this. Oh, okay. Couple tables there covered up. Razor's Edge would have been dope, but, you know, you got to land the right way, and if you don't land the right way, it could, you know, be a problem, so. Oh! I mean, it was a bump, but I mean, you know, if you were a fan of wrestling from back in the day and watch like ECW, that's pretty tame. You know, guys aren't going to be down on the floor for 5 minutes off a very, you know, weak, you know, move like that. You know, like things were definitely a lot more hardcore, you know, but again, they have to sell it. So, you know, I get it. The LA Knight, is he going to go elbow drop off the top? Or he'll try and miss. All right, LA Knight positioning himself for a little Macho Man. Yeah, there's Solo pulling him off. I had a feeling either he would roll off or someone would help him. And there's Solo. Wow. I had a feeling. Jeff Cobb. Cobb is a big boy, too. You know, if you've ever seen him wrestle in any federation in the past, you know, he definitely fits the group for sure. And obviously with Jacob Fatu, you know, you can go down many paths. You know, you can be with the group. Obviously, you know, Solo, you know, at some point will try to get the belt, and you already know you're going to have that one-on-one, you know. But again, I feel like Jacob Fatu deserves better opponents. Solo's kind of boring in the ring, so. But again, another angle that they can visit whenever they're ready for it. Here we go. High-risk maneuver by Fatu. And Jacob Fatu retaining was the right move. Good opening match. I mean, they didn't really need the whole Solo Jeff Cobb run in, but again, it gives you, you know, something to think about moving forward.
Remember what Solo Sikoa said last night on SmackDown? He said, I'm out of soldiers. You got to wonder if this man is newest soldier.
Good opening match.
I'm used to everyone in the WWE wanting to listen to me, but now that I use the whole side strategy, I gotta look out for everyone else. Get it? They all want the 24/7 first. You know my Grandpa knows a good smell when he takes it. Now
Yeah, so I'm gonna probably, you know, I'll probably do another probably hour, and we'll see what we get for a turnout and whatnot, and then depending on what we get with likes, subs, and donos and the turnout, that'll determine if I end up doing this full stream or if I end it early and then end up doing the Mariner game at 6:40. So we will see. Yeah, they got R-Truth going against Cena on Saturday night main event pretty soon. Just trying to check off all the boxes of, you know, as many wrestlers that Cena can wrestle, you know, before this 2025 year is over.
Friday Night SmackDown emanates from Kingdom Arena the night before This marks the first time SmackDown will be held in Saudi Arabia's capital. General ticket sale information and further event updates available in the upcoming weeks. And tonight, WWE Backlash. Presented by Morgan.
I'm gonna go check up on my pup here real quick before we get into the next match. Fatal 4-way. Jacob Fatu retains. We got Dom and Penta, should be decent. Pat McAfee versus Gunther, hopefully will be decent. Lyra and Becky, hopefully will be decent. And then obviously you got the main event and John Cena and Randy Orton.
Our main event tonight here in St. Louis, Missouri, John Cena versus Randy Orton. Their storied rivalry began 25 years ago. They had 23 one-on-one matches in their career. Tonight could be the final time they meet in WWE. But before we get there, it's a heated rivalry born in betrayal. Lyra Valkyria looks to claim redemption as she faces off with Becky Lynch in a match for the Women's Intercontinental Championship. Will Lyra finally strike back?
All right, my pup is doing good. All right, we're going to go with a female match. Lyra Valkyria versus Becky Lynch next. Only 5 matches on the card here today. And then Mariners play at 6:40 against the Blue Jays. Logan Evans on the mound. So I initially only made a post to do this today, but you know, got to kind of play things by ear.
Isn't always red, but now.
Yeah, Jeff Cobb got a kind of a unique move set. I wouldn't say it's as good as Jacob Fatu. No one really is in his category, but it will be interesting to see what kind of feuds and you know what kind of direction they are going to use Jeff Cobb with the group.
Skin that's still more clear at 1 year. Don't use if you're allergic to Ebglyss. Allergic reactions can occur that can be severe. Eye problems can occur. Tell your doctor if you have new or worsening eye problems. You should not receive a live vaccine when treated with Ebglyss. Before starting Ebglyss, tell your doctor if you have a parasitic infection. Skin that's still more clear, even at 1 year? Clearly, it's possible with Ebglyss. Talk to your doctor about Ebglyss for eczema. It's Pod's biggest sale in history. Save up to 30% on moving and storage until May 19th. And see why Pods is America's #1 container moving company. Whether you're relocating or renovating, save up to 30% at pods.com today.
Still dreaming of Japan?
My budget's more intercontinental.
Try Priceline. They've got millions of hotel deals on the menu. Consumer Reports use drug tests, owner surveys, and safety ratings to name Subaru their 2025 most reliable and best overall automotive brand. And the Crosstrek, a top pick.
But the schedule more than likely will be me doing the Mariner game at 6:40. And that'll go probably 2.5 to 3 hours. Then they have the rubber match against the Blue Jays at 1 o'clock on Mother's Day tomorrow. I'm going to do that. Then Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday at home at T-Mobile, going against the Yankees and Aaron Judge, who went yard twice today. That's going to be a fun series. Every time you get the Yankees and the Mariners to go at it, always is must-see TV. So, and then we'll find out what we got going on Thursday, and then we'll get into the next series after that. So.
Walmart Plus. It's Walmart Plus. Free shipping, no ordering. Things you wanted, plus the one thing you forgot. Plus, no worries. Plus, quick shipping means you can forget the forgetting ever happened. Walmart Plus. It's Walmart Plus.
This Mother's Day, luxury is how mom defines it.
Nice win by the Celtics to rebound 2 ass kickings that they had. But when you end up shooting 25 for 100 from deep, you're going to lose in those 2 games. Shooting 63s in the first game and making only 15, and then shooting 43s in game 2 and only making 10, obviously is not going to cut it.
Only at Jared Junior's.
And they shot 40 today, but they made 20. So there's the difference. All right, Becky Lynch making her entrance, the man. And then T-Wolves and Warriors on in about an hour. All right, Women's Intercontinental Championship, Lyra Valkyrie versus Becky Lynch. And, regardless if you're a Becky Lynch fan or not, obviously being off TV for such a long time, it's like when they cater to certain individuals that are OGs like Charlotte, for example, it doesn't really go over really well with the fans and whatnot. And as much as I liked Becky Lynch, back in the day and still do, I think Lyra retaining would be the smart move. What would be best for business? Becky doesn't really need a belt at this time, But again, we'll see what WWE Creative has, in their back pocket and whatnot. Because obviously you can always have a couple rematches and the belt can change hands back and forth if they wanted to go that route. But I think with Lyra being kind of an up and coming star, her actually getting some dubs off some, decent female competition would be good for her legacy. So, but we will see. I like the costume. 118 days as champ, 5th title defense, 7-1 record. And it's about time that we actually, let some of the newer ladies kind of climb the ladder, instead of just having the same, OG females from back in the day have gold over and over and over. So. And Lyra's getting better on the mic and in the ring every day as we speak. So.
Of one of the biggest names in the industry after an 11-month absence. Yeah, well, Becky Lynch forcing her way to that matchup after attacking Bayley. Nonetheless, this is for the Intercontinental Championship. Lyra Valkyria, Becky Lynch.
Intercontinental Championship here on the line. Lyra Valkyria versus Becky Lynch.
The NXT Women's Championship.
All right, here we go.
It was a very quick pin out of nowhere. Becky Lynch is about to make amends for that tonight. So flip or not, she won.
And as far as like the female division, there's a lot of different shapes and sizes, different nationalities, different age groups, where you have all these different females from all over the globe. But if you're really looking at wrestling, body size, body shape, these two really match up very well. They are similar in size, maybe not necessarily similar in moveset, but should be interesting to see how this plays out. Becky has always been better on the mic than she has been in the ring, but again, she had her moment, obviously, getting that bloody nose by Nia Jax and becoming Becky Two Belts. And, it was a great thing for her legacy. But obviously, if you're with Seth Rollins, you're going to be great on the microphone, as both of them are. Nice arm drag there by Becky.
Thank you occasionally. A lot of thank you.
Oh, I like that. Hell yeah. See, I love seeing moves that are original or you haven't seen them, at a point or another. I mean, back in the day, a lot of Boston crabs were done, but rolling through. Keep going, Lyra. I love it. Lyra wrestling like she's the vet out there. With the bridge. Nice. Come out of her ship. Believes in herself. Has had an incredible title reign. WWE fans are behind her. And Valkyria now. Kick driving Becky to the barricade. Female division, the best it's ever been. And it's awesome to be able to see, newbies really start to kind of grow in front of your very eyes. Huge difference with Lyra 2 years ago to where she's at now. Good counter there by Becky Lynch. Becky with the ground and pound on Lyra. Second ever intercontinental champion is now really taking down Valkyria. She's got to be careful here because Lyra's got the chance of advantage. She's got to be pinned or submitted. Becky with the title. Here's the cover. Now allow Becky to kick out at 2. It's one thing coming out of the blocks. It's another thing riding through that storm and showing you champion caliber. Bloody lip, bloody elbow. Is taking a sting out of the tail of one of the big slap across the face. This is all oh, big chop. Still some naivety, some innocence. So under the Valkyria, and that in this game is a massive problem. Now, like Valkyria able to go through. Nice kick to the chest there by Becky. Bexploda. To get to that point. I was just at the cusp of that. Yeah, verbally, she's certainly already there. These last few weeks have been a completely different persona. Reefer in the building. What's good, bro? I didn't know if you were gonna make it today. It seems like a few of the regulars, have some stuff that they had to do obligation wise. So I was gonna grind it out for, because I got a Mariner game at 6:40. So I was gonna see if some of the regulars would show up, at least halfway through the PLE, and then if they did, then I would stay obviously and do this whole event. And then if not, then I was going to possibly end the stream a little early and then do the Mariner game instead. But good to see you here, my guy. Did you get a chance to watch the Fatal 4-Way? Or did you end up missing that match? But Fatal 4-Way was good, good energy to start the show. And I figured it would be that or Dom and Penta to lead the show, which was rumored, but the Fatal 4-Way was a lot of action and, a little bit of a surprise there at the end as well. Nice slap by Lyra. And having Jacob Fatu retain was the right choice. And they didn't even really need Solo or Jeff Cobb to, make an appearance, But again, that would have been best for business. I mean, we know Drew will have gold at some point in the next 2 years. LA Knight and Damian Priest, at some point or another will, have chances, if they don't end up getting gold, but they'll have chances, but having Jacob Fatu retain what not only is what best for business, but he is the most deserving and the most one of the most over guys in the business. You don't really see guys of his descent with that high risk ability. And again, he's so fast based off his body shape and doing all those high risk maneuvers off the top. It's like it's like seeing a Rikishi doing Matt and Jeff Hardy moves. It's just wild. 2. Nice. Sushi's always good. Yeah, but definitely enjoyed the first match, and we only got 5 matches on the card, so and that's usually a better fit instead of in the Vince McMahon era where we would have 7 or 8, and then those couple filler matches would usually be like 5 to 7s. So if you want to keep the overall number of the card high, at least an 8 or higher, having sometimes less is more. So Becky on the second rope here, looking for high risk. Yeah, Jeff Cobb. Yeah, so if you haven't seen any of him, if you go on YouTube or just take a look, Lyra, high risk. But he definitely has a unique style and a unique moveset, not as entertaining as Jacob Fatu, obviously, too. But I think that most people don't know who he is, or maybe have heard of him, but not really watched a lot of his matches. I would say the average person, probably is like wondering, what's this about? So, but after watching a couple matches, if you go through, some of the old federations that he's been a part of, and seeing some stuff on YouTube, it'll be interesting to see what angles they use him moving forward. Two. Reefer, are you going to be able to chill and be here for the rest of the PLE, or are you have other things you got to do? Yeah, I was pretty much going to do this PLE for about an hour and a half, like half of the PLE, and see who shows up. And I know it's Mother's Day, weekend, and other people got stuff that's going on, but if we ended up having a light turnout, I was going to consider ending it, halfway through and then doing the Mariner game, which is on at 6:40. But, if we can get, some of the OGs and the regulars here and they'll be able to hang out, and watch, then obviously I'll do the Mariners tomorrow at 1 and just do this for the rest of the night. So. Nice crossbody over the top by Lyra. Yeah, well, if you're going to be able to be here for the rest of the show, then I'll skip the Mariners today. I do the Mariners pretty much every day. We only get a chance to do WWE, PLEs once a month, and then I'll try to do Raws, 2 or 3 times a month if the Mariners have a day off on Monday. So I'll stay and do this. High risk, but I'll stay and do this for the show if you're going to be able to stick around for the show. Plus, we don't get that much time, because, again, if I do Raw, a lot of times you're busy and you got other things going on with the fam and the kids. So, we usually only get a chance to hang out once a month anyways. So I'm going to watch the Mariners when it comes on. I'll just open up a split screen, but, definitely want to be able to see what we got with the remaining 3 matches.
The experience of Lyra. Will it cost her in this match against Lynch? That's the blows you have to find if you want to take some Lyra. Look, I think Lynch is
and Lynch is definitely has to be grateful that she's good on the microphone, because if she wasn't, she'd be in a position where Bailey is kind of at right now, where she's kind of floating in quote unquote no man's land, where I don't really agree with replacing her at Mania. That definitely had to have stung, but some people are better on the mic than others, and Becky never is the strongest or the fastest, or the most skilled in the ring, but really what has saved, her career is her mic skills. Lyra, see if we can get Becky to tap here. Yeah. Well, at some point we're going to get a solo, one-on-one, with Jacob Fatu, right? That will be something that we're going to see, at some point or another. And then we may end up seeing, at some point down the road, once they split up, if that's the route that it happens, where you get the Jeff Cobb one-on-one with Jacob Fatu, or maybe we'll have a triple threat where it'll be the 3 of them. It'll be interesting. 2. But yeah, Cobb is a big boy. He's always been kind of burly, if you've ever seen him wrestle in any other federations in the past. So, and, when they mentioned, a while back when, free agency was going to be a time, you kind of almost speculated that he was going to come here rather than AEW. But we'll stay here and do the WWE Backlash 2025 here in St. Louis. And then when the Mariners come on in about an hour and 40 minutes, I'll just open up a split screen and keep tabs on what's going on there. Lost yesterday to the Blue Jays, so they need to win today and win tomorrow. And if they do that, then that'll be their 10th consecutive series win, which is, big for the Mariners. This is the best they've been since 2001. So Becky grabbing a chair. Exposed turnbuckle. Counter. Oh, nice. Lyra is extremely athletic for, her compact size. 2. And there's a reason why she's the IC champ. But you got like Julia on the up and up. You got Stephanie Van Keur on the up and up. It's like, I feel like the women's division for the young ladies that are like up and coming, this is really what we needed, instead of the same Bailey, Charlotte Flair, Becky Lynch, Bianca Belair. Like at some point, you're going to need to incorporate some new talent, since some of the other OG ladies, are kind of getting up there in age and skill set. So, oh, 2. I agree, Reefer. I mean, I followed her in Japan for quite some time. So when I heard that she was going to make her way over to WWE, I didn't really know how they were going to portray her or use her. Because obviously, when you're spotlighted in NJPW or if you're in Japan, you're treated a little bit differently over there, based off stardom and fandom by the fans. But it'll be interesting to see where that storyline goes as well. Roxanne Perez, another, individual kind of on the up and up also, not just, with what you see here. You got Julia, Roxanne Perez, right? Lyra Valkyria, Stephanie Van Kerr. Oh! 2. Yeah, lots of people are asking if I'm going to be doing the Mariner game today. I'm going to do this Backlash PLE, but when the Mariner game comes on, I'll give updates. But we will be back tomorrow at 1 o'clock with just Mariners for the last game in the set on Mother's Day, and then I'll be doing Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday versus the Yankees, and I'll be doing all 3 of those. So really the only reason that I won't do a Mariner game, it will be for WWE only. That will really be the only thing that I'll, end up skipping a game or covering both at the same time for. So Lyra. And definitely it's a must win with Logan Evans on the bump since we lost yesterday. We need to win today and we need to win tomorrow. And we got Bryce Miller on the bump tomorrow, and Logan and Bryce haven't looked good lately. 2. And Lyra retaining. And having Jacob Fatu and Lyra retain was the right decision. Yeah, like if Matt and Reefer and a few didn't show up, then I probably would have ended this stream, probably around 5:40, 6 o'clock, so that way I could have prepped for the Mariner game. But when anytime you end up having an event when you have a holiday nearby like Mother's Day or Labor Day, sometimes the turnout is a little bit lighter, but yeah. I wonder if she broke it. I mean, selling is one thing, but it's like when they were, with like Tiffany Stratton, also too, where she had, her teeth knocked out with Charlotte at Mania. You could kind of tell if you were watching like, post-show interviews and other things that were going on. Things can get physical. There's always going to be a selling point and whatnot. Now she's kind of holding her stomach there, but hopefully she didn't break it or separate it. Great performer, Lyra Valkyria. I mean, you never know. Sometimes something little, can be something big. Like I was taking my dog on a walk last night and I grabbed the garage door, not by the handle, but by one of the creases. And then all of a sudden it rotated down and my finger got stuck in the garage door in one of the creases. Holy fuck. Like I literally almost cried. Like I had to pull the garage door up to get my finger out. And my finger right now is all purple at the top. And I didn't know if I broke it or obviously, some blood vessels were broken in my finger and whatnot. So one of my fingers is incredibly purple. Hopefully it's okay. But, sometimes something as simple, as, running into a corner of a countertop, or slamming your hand into a car door, or me trying to close the garage door like an idiot and grabbing it in the wrong spot and having it close on my fucking finger. I haven't had pain like that in a fucking long time, and it still fucking hurts today, but I'm glad that I didn't break it, but it fucking hurt.
Tomorrow on WWE LFG, time to whittle it down to 4. New stays and new goals. The semifinals throwdown.
Yeah, I don't even know what I was thinking either. I was just trying to pull the garage door down, and it has panels, and each panel, and it's not one of the electric ones. It's just one that you move up and down. But once you get, your finger in there in that spot, I mean, the whole door fucking closed on it, and, it was stuck in there for a little bit. I probably had it in there for, 15 to 30 seconds. I mean, it was painful. And then I had to drop the leash that I had my dog on, and luckily she didn't run away, and, still ended up going on the long walk afterwards. But, next day waking up, I've had to ice it a couple times, and I hope it's not broken or anything like that, but probably the most pain that I've had in quite some time. 2-night event, SummerSlam. Yeah, Cena and R-Truth, man. You gotta be able to get as many matches done with Cena in his last year. I mean, that's awesome for R-Truth. Because when would R-Truth have any chance of wrestling John Cena? He wouldn't. So, I mean, unless it's a house show or main event, right? So, I'm actually looking forward to that. Yeah. R-Truth, he's a OG, man. Love me some R-Truth. I mean, the guy doesn't age. I mean, he's pretty much looked relatively the same for the last 20, 25 years. Cena and Orton coming in at the same time as Batista.
The most recent one was back in 2017, 8 years ago. Every time these two have been in the ring, it has been a classic. We'd like to extend a special thank you to Killer Mike for Death Day featuring Rock D, the legend, the official theme song.
Well, hopefully her nose is okay. Obviously, it looks like it was a little. Now, if she would have never took her hand off her nose, then then maybe we have a fracture or it was broken. But I mean, it still could be. And next up, we got Dom and Penta for match number 3. But I think the Fatal 4-Way, gave us that spark that we wanted. I think that match was great. This match, I think some people kind of felt that it might underwhelm a little bit because Becky isn't really the greatest wrestler, regardless if you're a fan of her or not. She's not as stiff as a Ronda Rousey or something like that. But again, Becky is more of a talker rather than, in-ring skill set. It may, not the strongest, not the fastest, not the smoothest in the ring, but obviously good on the microphone, and that's kind of her saving grace. But for Lyra, she's been getting better and better on the mic every day as we speak. And when you watch her in the ring, it's a night and day difference based on her moveset and what Becky can do in the ring. And, definitely a good decision to have Jacob Fatu and Lyra retain, so I'm not shocked by that. And we'll find out if we end up having a belt change and they end up giving it to Penta, or if they have Dom in the same boat as Fatu retaining. And then we will end up having, I assume, then this, right? And this will lead up to the main event, Cena and Randy Orton. Like, sub, donate, comment, share. If you haven't smashed the like button yet, please do. We'll try to get as many as we can with the amount of people that we have. We'll try to shoot for somewhere between 15 and 20 if we can get to that number, unless we hit an algorithm, and then we could shoot for 30 to 50 if we ever get to that. And obviously 100 in the donos on every single stream. We're at 595 to go. Yeah, and sometimes you have to go with a heel change, and obviously having the short hair and the baby face approach wasn't going to work, but also him going heel but having to be a part of a group like Judgment Day to mentor him, with Ripley and with Priest and with everyone to kind of learn the ropes. And then kind of been able to see, because he really couldn't talk on the mic early in his career when he was doing the whole Rey Mysterio thing. And now he's getting better, on the mic, being a little bit more comfortable in the ring as well. And he naturally got over. It wasn't one of those things where he's got a catchy theme song like LA Knight or Cody Rhodes. It's just kind of the simple fact that he is a Mysterio. Now, him getting the belt, at the same time as Fatu might have been a little shocking. Even with Fatu, they could have waited a couple more months, for him to get the belt, but they made the decision, which was the right one. And then with Dom, you could argue that maybe he got the belt a year or two early. Maybe getting another year or two under his belt may have been better. But again, organically, just the fans alone, and every once in a while you're going to get that, where the fans, pretty much make you over. And again, I'm proud of him too, and again, when it's all said and done, Dom will probably have more accolades than Rey Mysterio, depending on how long, Dominic goes. If Dominic wrestles for 20, 25 years, it'll probably be safe to say that he may have more accolades than Rey when it's all said and done, which is saying a lot, because we've seen Rey be great, for 20 plus years. So that's a huge compliment. So. Yeah, a card, I mean, if you're looking at the card, I mean, it's Backlash, right? So, I mean, it's not going to live up to the potential of like Mania or SummerSlam or Royal Rumble or Money in the Bank. So, if you're just looking at it, yeah, it definitely, could be a little weak, to some, I can agree to that, but again, it's better than having Vince run the company and having 8 matches and having 3 other matches be 5s. And then it brings the total number of the card down. So you have to look at it at that perspective as well. So it does look like a little bit of a weak card, but it would be much weaker if you had 3 filler matches. And that's typically what Vince would have done, right? He would have had 7 or 8 matches. And, and 3 of them probably would have been 5 to 7s. So hopefully every match that we see here tonight will be an 8 and above. And I think so far we can agree that I think everything up to this point has been at least an 8. I guess if you want to be critical and call the last match a 7.5 if you didn't enjoy it, everyone is, up to their own opinion, 7, 7.5, 8, somewhere in that range. But, I thought that, both matches were pretty good. And obviously Becky kind of brings the match down a little bit because she's not that great of a wrestler in the ring, but Lyra brought it up. So. Yeah, crowd definitely went nuts when Rey won. And even though Penta is super, super over, yeah, I don't think they're going to take the belt off Dom, at least not yet. At some point, Penta may get gold. But I think at some point what they're going to do is they'll pair him up with Rey Fenix, and then they'll have the Lucha Bros, and then they'll be a tag team. So at some point we know that is going to happen, where they're going to pair both of them up. Penta doesn't need Rey Fenix, but Rey Fenix needs Penta. And obviously they would make an amazing tag team, again, with Nick and Matt Jackson, with the Young Bucks. If you ended up watching them in AEW, the Lucha Bros and the Young Bucks are must-see TV. And I like what Penta's doing in his singles run, and they should reward him with gold at least once before they do become the Lucha Bros again. But I don't think that we're going to get Penta winning tonight, even though I think a lot of people would want him to win. But because if you were going to have Penta win here, you wouldn't have given Dom the belt at Mania. That's kind of my thinking, and maybe what Reefer's thinking as well. Or maybe you think Penta will win. You think Penta will win? And Balor will turn on him here? that could happen too. I mean, it really just depends on the direction on where they want to go. And if Balor turns on him here, then you can have obviously a one-on-one feud with Finn. But I'm not really sure if the fans want to see that, though. I think they want to see Dom wrestle someone other than Finn. But obviously, this is long-term storytelling. And then at some point, someone's going to get kicked out of the group, and whatnot. So, and again, you could have Finn turn on Dom at any point. It could be here. It could be at, SummerSlam. It could be, at a PLE after that. So really, it's just a matter of time, when they decide for Finn to screw Dom over, either tonight, whether it be at Mania or SummerSlam or a future PLE. So we'll see. Dom inspired you to get the mullet down. I mean, some people can pull it off, And again, Dom's look, again, compared to what he looked like when he first came up with Ray, it's a night and day difference. But I can see both scenarios today. I could see Finn Balor, running in and costing Dom, right? And then Penta's the new IC champ. I could definitely see that, but also I could see Dom retaining as well, where Finn tries to do it, but Dom still wins. I just think with the, the whole placement of the belt, is it just you wanted Dom to have a WrestleMania moment and that's it, or are we going to have a long-term run out of Dom? So it really kind of depends on how they see him and view him in the company, because both of these guys are super over, right? But if you have Penta win here, does it make what Dom did at Mania a little less? You know what I'm saying? Ooh, nice move with a Hurricane Rana by Dom. He wouldn't have been able to do that early in his career with Ray. Nice. And again, he's going to get better and better and better. And at some point, Dom will be heavyweight champion. It's just a matter of time and progression. So I just feel like, if Dom does drop it, it takes a little bit of the aura and the vibe away. Yeah, you got the storyline with him and Finn, but I just feel like most people don't want to see him wrestle Finn, because in most people's eyes, Finn is boring. He's not the greatest on the mic. Some people love him, but I feel like, most people would want to see Dom wrestle someone better than Finn, But again, since they're, in the faction, with Judgment Day, wow. Holy hell. Dom is insane. Obviously, Penta with the amazing sell right there. But already you've seen Dom, two moves with that Hurricane Rana, and obviously Penta selling that with perfection. Wow. Wow. I mean, again, you would have never thought Dom would have been able to do those two moves this early in his career. And again, super over with the fans. Obviously, Penta coming over from AEW and having the, the fireworks and the sweet costume. Like, out of anyone that dresses up, Penta looks the best in costume out of anyone in wrestling, period, right? Bringing that Lucha Libre style, but I don't know. I kind of, like, as much as I love Penta and enjoy, I want Dom to keep the belt. I don't think we should end Dom's run. If you're going to give him the belt at Mania and he's going to end up being a household name, let's let him, have the title for a while. And I mean, all good things come to an end, and it won't be the last time that he has gold if he does lose it today with a run-in from Balor. But I just don't want that Mania moment to get wasted here. And again, some people cannot pull off the mullet. Dom fucking can. Dom's got the swagger, and again, a little tribute to Eddie Guerrero, one of my all-time favorites too. So, and obviously Penta, a modern day La Parka, but better. And obviously Judgment Day doesn't really have the same vibe, without Priest or Ripley in it. But I am proud of Dom's progression. I mean, just keep getting better on the mic. Keep getting better and more confident in your abilities on the microphone. Keep working hard in the ring. You know, and I don't think we're ever going to say, you know, you're a poor man's Rey Mysterio. We're never going to say that. Obviously, Rey being, you know, kind of a shorter lucha libre wrestler and Dom being taller. So it's like they don't even really wrestle the same or have the same body shape. So. But I love lucha libre wrestling and the fast pace, high risk maneuvers. And even though these two guys are taller for like lucha libre type of wrestlers, you know, most of them are a lot shorter, you know, like Psychosis, you know, from back in the day, Juventud Guerrera, Hoovy Juice, you know, like I got fond memories of watching those guys. But man, these guys are entertainers through and through. Penta. I mean, I think like Penta's great as a singles competitor for as long as they want to use him. But I think if you can get the Lucha Bros and you promote them the right way, you know, the tag team division has been a little weak, you know, overall for WWE. And if you can bring the Lucha Bros to where they were when they were going against Nick and Matt Jackson and the Young Bucks, you know, that could elevate the tag team division. And again, I want Penta to get singles gold at least once, you know, before they make that transition. But I would rather have Dom win and retain here tonight, even though that would be 3 individuals retaining. And obviously we like surprises and whatnot, but. Oh, 619. Oh, good counter there by Penta. Two. It's mullet season. How long are you going to keep the mullet? Probably until the wife says cut it off, huh? Until she gets too fed up with it for you. Yeah, a little bit of an awkward landing on that previous move. Nice, Dom. 2. I love it. Mixing in a little Oblivion from Lev. That's one thing about Dom that's exciting. It's kind of like the Logan Paul factor, where you have this like athleticism that's there. And obviously Logan always had the athleticism. Dom, this is something that he's learning along the way, but it's like kind of that like surprise factor where you just don't really know what you're going to get, you know, like move wise. Like you might see something that you haven't seen before or something that you didn't think that guy could do. And I know a lot of people don't like Logan, you know, but again, as far as, you know, social media guy, you know, kind of a D-bag, but as far as a wrestler, it definitely has exceeded a lot of expectations, not only by fans, but also wrestlers in the back. But I love Dom hitting the Oblivion. Oh, fucking destroyer. And you can tell that these guys have worked together and practiced with each other. You know, they got good fluidity together. Oh, here comes Carlito. What's cooler than being cool? Oh, yeah, definitely Liv is the best at it for sure. And one of the best finishing moves, you know, in wrestling. And here comes Finn. All right, so sending him back to the locker room, but that doesn't mean that we're going to get Finn to come back out, right? And here goes Penta. Over the ref. Let's go. Let's go. What athleticism for Penta over the referee. That's like in a dunk contest, you're dunking over a car. Wow. Nice high risk by Penta there to Judgment Day. Oh, nice super kick to Dom. And even though the card on paper might have looked a little weak, I think that every match has overachieved in Backlash. Oh, look at this. Oh, look at this. Americano. And here's Dom. It's the run-in that no one thought would happen. And that's the next rivalry, huh? Frogs splash by Dom. And there it is. We got the run-in, but it wasn't the run-in that everyone thought, huh? But Dom retaining. There we go. El Grande Americano numero uno. Yeah. It's like if you're going to give the belt to Jacob Fatu and Dom, you can't have them lose at like the PLE after Mania or even 2 PLEs after Mania. If this is the future of WWE, short term, long term, you want to make sure, that these guys keep the gold for their legacy. Even though Penta is deserving of gold, he's super over. Got entrance music, got great costume, probably the best costume in wrestling. But as far as character development, they can do a lot more with Dom, especially with him being in Judgment Day, backstabbing, And at some point, see, for me, I assume if Dom ends up, getting screwed over, that's when Liv will join with Finn Balor and then screw him, and then she'll leave him, and then obviously they can have a feud at that point, and then Dom will be out of Judgment Day, and then he can kind of go down another path, whatever it is at that time, singles run, tag team, whatever it may be. But all 3 belts are retained, and then now we've got 2 matches left. We're going to go here with Pat McAfee and Gunther, which I feel most people thought that this would probably be the worst match on the card, but you never know what Pat might be able to pull off high-risk maneuver-wise. We knew Gunther's going to be extra physical and throw Pat around, but Pat might be able to do a few moves to bring the match, up to like an 8 or higher rather than being like a 7 or 7.5. And then obviously the main event with Cena and Randy Orton should be good, so... Yes. El Grande Americano. Maybe this PLE is only going to be 2 hours and 30 minutes. Because, we're already an hour and 30 minutes in, almost there, and we only have 2 matches left, right? Unless the Cena Orton goes 30 to 45 minutes, we assume Gunther and Pat McAfee would probably go 15 to 30. So... Yeah, I like El Grande Americano. I like Chad Gable as well. For me, honestly, I think that like Chad Gable, as far as a wrestler and on the mic, he's probably the most improved in the last, couple years out of anybody. But again, now him doing this Lucha Libre role, we can't really hear him cut a promo, unless he's Chad Gable. But I feel like his mic skills have improved the most out of any, WWE star. And hopefully he'll end up getting a push, like Sami Zayn did when he joined the Bloodline. Chad Gable deserves to get, more of a push at some point. I don't know when it's going to be, but definitely one of the most underrated guys on the entire roster, in my opinion. How many guys could actually wrestle lucha? Like, let's be real, not many. And Chad Gable is like kind of like the modern day Kurt Angle. He can really do it all. And I still got an hour and 10 minutes before the Mariner game comes on. So, hell, if this actually ends in 2 hours and 30 minutes, I might be able to do both. But I don't know how long this PLE is going to go. Io and Ripley versus Roxanne Perez and Julia.
weeks from tonight when it's in Florida on NBC for the return of Saturday night's main event. Jey Uso with a
Main event. I always enjoyed main event, you know. Too bad they don't do it, you know, like every week. Hell, I miss Sunday Night Heat. That's how old school I am. But I used to watch this back when I was a kid, main event. The only problem is with a lot of those old school shows, it would be like Hulk Hogan versus David Smith, you know, and you're like, who the fuck is David Smith, you know? And like, you know, every once in a while you ended up getting, you know, something entertaining like here where you get maybe like Piper and Hogan, but they usually save that for, you know, the pay-per-view, right? But definitely the PLE is flying by, especially with only 5 matches. About a half hour per, you know, maximum time allotment there. I mean, unless the Cena Orton goes like 45 minutes to an hour. I mean, both guys can go that long for sure if needed.
And here we have the Karate Kid. He's really unstoppable. The Karate Kid legends exclusively in theaters.
Hilarious that they have to throw in the Karate Kid section. All right, here we go. I think the real question is that does Michael Cole get involved? I'm going to go check up on my pup here real quick. All right, we got 2 matches left. Pat McAfee versus Gunther. And then obviously the main event with John Cena and Randy Orton.
How do we get down from here?
Taking a little brain vacay to Japan? It's the dream. Why did you stop dreaming and go? My budget's for instant ramen than sashimi these days. So use Priceline. We've got millions in hotel and flight deals on the You tried the 60% off? It's super fresh. Japan, here I come. Arigato.
Walmart Plus. It's Walmart Plus. Free shipping, no order minimum. For all the things you wanted, plus the one thing you forgot. Plus, no worries. Plus, quick shipping means you can forget that forgetting ever happened. Walmart Plus. It's Walmart Plus.
This Mother's Day, luxury is how Mom defines it. Of course, she might define it a few ways. Celebrate Mom luxuriously with 20% off store-wide through Mother's Day. Only at Jared Jewelers.
Some people just know they can save hundreds on car insurance by checking Allstate first.
Is that your car?
Like you know to check your sunroof is closed first before going through.
All right, my pup is doing good. Gave her a couple hugs, couple kisses, got her wrapped up in a blanket.
Don't dream. See the steps.
Oh man, that would be wild.
Davis, we wreck cars. Unlike anyone else wrecks cars. Because for 75 years, we've only had one plan to make sure you keep yours.
As a business owner, I've got a lot on my plate. That's why I have ZipRecruiter to hire. ZipRecruiter has this feature called Zip Intro. It shows the time and it did all the work of finding and scheduling the candidates for me. I just picked my top choices and talked to great people the very next day. The plan was to hire 2 people, but the candidate quality was so good, I wound up hiring 4 in a week.
Zip Intro. Post jobs today. Talk to qualified candidates tomorrow. Try it free only at ZipRecruiter.com/peacock. Subway is the place to fill up on all the good stuff. Every irresistible sub is packed with tons of crispy, crunchy veggies. And you can plus it up with even more fresh.
Threw my water in the freezer for a little bit too long.
And check out all the fresh slices
I like everything ice cold.
like the foot-long DMT.
Gotta wait for some of that ice to melt.
Grams of protein. And now,
All right, we got 2 matches to go.
$6.99. Great bread, great meat, great sauce, great deals. Get on it, people. Order now on the Subway.
But as far as like a filler PLE, you know, not one of the major ones like WrestleMania or SummerSlam or Royal Rumble, Survivor Series. I feel like this one on paper it may have looked a little light, you know. But I mean, the first 3 matches delivered. We haven't had a bad match yet, so. And I assume that people thought that the Lyra, Becky, and then this match with Pat and Gunther would be maybe possibly a letdown, unless you ended up, you know, seeing some high-risk maneuvers or if one person kind of carried the match. And I think everyone knew the Fatal 4-Way was going to be good. You knew that Dom and Penta was going to be good. And obviously we know Cena and Randy Orton's going to be good. So, but Lyra definitely carried the match and did awesome. And again, you know, Gunther will be physical, but, you know, if this match ends up, you know, being a little bit better than people think, it'll be because of Pat, you know, based off his high risk, you know, maneuvers that he may be able to accomplish in the ring. So. And, you know, we know Logan Paul can wrestle. We know Pat McAfee can wrestle. We know that Bad Bunny can wrestle, you know, so, you know, Pat is a fucking athlete, you know, like if you've ever watched his show, the guy that he can literally do anything, basketball, baseball, football, hockey, tennis, you know, it's just some people, you know, are just born athletes, you know, and obviously you have to practice, you know, to kind of get better at something that you're not, you know, a quote unquote professional in, but, you know, but he definitely is more than just a punter, you know, more than just a guy, you know, on the mic, you know, with his own show. He's going to take some bumps in this, though, for sure. Yeah. And again, I think the overall consensus by social media, you know, by the, you know, IWC, the internet wrestling community, that they were kind of fearing maybe that the Lyra, Becky, or this versus Gunther, Pat versus Gunther might not live up, you know, to the standard of the other 3 matches. But, you know, I think all first 3 matches were good. And again, you know, never count out Pat, you know, he's super athletic, you know, he can jump from the top rope into tables, you know, into the crowd, into the, you know, announce table, whatever. So. Pat's going to be fucking hella sore after this match is over.
You find yourself in against this man, the ultimate destroyer. The problem is that you can't allow a man like
Paisley's in here now. She misses Dad. Miss Daddy.
years I've been doing this. 20 years I've said to this guy, I got beaten up, I got my butt kicked, I missed a handful of shows. I should be allowed to have some sort of opinion after 28 years. And now we're afraid to say anything that might get someone here and beat the hell out of us. You're probably right. But it doesn't make Pat McAfee getting in the ring with this man anywhere close to right. And his opponent will be in Austria, weighing in at 250 pounds. The Original. Come on, Pat. Come on, Pat.
Love you.
Anyone that can pull this off. I believe
Yeah, Pat's chest is going to be bruised and probably bloody.
hard worker, handsome
He'll be throwing back beers after this is done. Oh, that's on eBay.
this going remotely well. Yeah, but it gives me no happiness to admit.
Looks like a kid ended up getting it there in the front row, though. Good for him, rather than like one of the adults. I would definitely try to get Pat to sign that, but you probably won't be able to do it after the match because he probably won't be conscious. Daniel in the building. What's good, brother? Just watching this WWE Backlash 2025 in St. Louis. We're down to our last two matches here. Gunther and Pat McAfee, and then Cena, the champ, versus Randy Orton. And then the Mariners are going to be on in 1 hour from now. So I don't know if I'm going to have time really to do both, but I will be watching both. Yeah, I definitely rocking the skinny jean look. But I mean, it's not like Pat's going to be wearing tights, you know, or jorts like Cena. Oh, Pat, a little kip up. Crowd appreciates that.
Official in this matchup, and out to the apron, hanging on. Interesting that with a clean break, and now just mocked by Gunther, big and that's again, you can see the inexperience of Pat as he tried to come up over the top and over exuberance. Oh, goodness.
Yeah, but even if Pat, you know, fucks up a couple times on moves, he's not a fucking everyday wrestler. So I don't think anyone anticipates him being 100% clean, you know, in the whole entire match. There's going to be a few fuck ups. But there also will be a few, you know, moves that will probably shock the crowd or, you know, get the crowd going. Yeah, but that's the thing, though. You can be training for years, but if you're not actually wrestling on TV week in and week out, you know, you see people that have been wrestling in the business, you know, for a long time, and if they get an injury, they're going to be rusty. You know, it's there's a thing called ring rust. It's real. So, and it's like Pat isn't a regular. He's not Logan Paul. He's not wrestling every week. So, you know, emotions are going to be high, and you know, he'll dish it out, but he's going to take his, you know, he's going to take some damage as well. Well, hopefully Pat will have some good high risk in him still before he gets too tired. Instead of just getting beat the fuck up by Gunther for 20, 30 minutes. I don't speak lies on this channel, my guy. I mean, no one denies the fact that Pat can wrestle, just like Bad Bunny, and before Logan Paul became an everyday wrestler with the company. I mean, this was never going to be on one of like the main cards. It always would have to be on like a filler PLE. Oh shit! Big boot. Pat is going to need a lot of beer tonight. He'll need a drink or two or three. If Pat doesn't end up busting out some high-risk maneuvers, this is definitely going to be the worst match on the card.
This one is on its way to being over. I'm trying to play out of this. I said he was trying to talk to some people about how to get out of this hole. Another giant suplex to McAfee. Okay, hit it. 1, 2, 3. Just end this thing. Just end it. Oh, you're beautiful. He's made his point. Okay. Joseph's mind is a compassion-free zone at this point. The guy, he's made his point. You're agreeing to logic, but it's falling on deaf ears. Tipped you off. End this match now. And be done with it all. After biting your tongue when you're in close proximity to Gunther the most. That's an end match, Wade. I get it. I'm not saying anything. I get it. This has never been about the 1, 2, 3 for Gunther. He knows he's got that in the back whenever he feels like it. This is now a public spectacle. Fucking flogging is what it is. Come on, man! I'm trying to hit him out. Sam's coming to life here. I'm trying to figure this thing. Elbow, well placed. Hit the track. Come on, Pat. Little rally here. Little rally. You're going to get some more before. You're going to get some more before. Come on.
Here we go, Pat.
Come on, Pat.
Oh! Oh, there we go, Pat.
Come on, Pat. Come on.
Man, Pat is bruised up. I mean, you're definitely getting the physicality of like a normal Gunther versus Sheamus or Gunther versus a Drew McIntyre type of match. It's just, you're not getting as much as you want out of Pat. Obviously, not being a regular wrestler, but.
second time, Gunther's won. Finish the top match. Oh, God. And the damn match just ended now. Enough of this in the match. You gotta be. Enough of it. You gotta be. Well, Gunther getting wobbled by McAfee as good as it gets from McAfee. The number torturous. Boston up one center of the ring.
Yeah, definitely feels more of like a Raw or SmackDown type of match. Here we go. All right. Paisley's in here now. You knew Michael Cole was going to get involved some way or another. Oh. I mean, it's pretty much Pat just getting beat up. Now, if Pat was actually wrestling someone that had more of a similar body shape and size to him, maybe, the move set and, things would be a little bit different. Michael Cole hanging on to the boot. I love it. Oh, inside out clothesline. I'm not sure if you're going to end up seeing that high risk, big move out of Pat. I mean, we saw him do the flip off the rope, but now if he was going to get someone a little smaller like Logan Paul or something, then, maybe it's a different story and a different type of match, but obviously it's David versus Goliath, Pat facing the bully. Oh, Pat is hulking up. Yeah, they could have the crowd was into the match, but I mean, overall, I mean, it was just kind of a beatdown. I was hoping that I would see a little bit more out of Pat and whatnot, because in this kind of match, it made it look like Gunther's wrestling like a spectator that's like never been in the ring, kind of feel, rather than someone that has been in the ring, that has proven that he can do moves and whatnot. Definitely, even though the crowd was into it, this is something that they could have done on like Raw instead. They didn't really need to put this in as a PLE, but yeah, I agree. Yeah, again, that worst match of the, Lyra and Becky was better. Obviously, Dom and Penta was better. The Fatal 4-Way was better. I mean, on a scale of 1 to 10, that was like a 5. You know, that wasn't really. I mean, I'm glad the crowd got into it for Pat's sake. You know, so that way it wasn't like a complete failure based off crowd reaction. But I mean, for us at home watching, kind of a, you know, this definitely didn't really need to be on the card.
Show of respect from one of the greatest this industry has ever seen.
Yeah, but we also had a long run of like Gunther and Drew McIntyre and Gunther and Sheamus, and you know, you see guys that are built the same, that are physical, you know, the same. But yeah, I mean, for me, like Gunther isn't really my cup of tea. You know, like I said, I feel there's quite a few other wrestlers that are more entertaining than him, but you know, he deserves to be in WWE. But it just kind of feels like with me, like if he doesn't have a faction, you know, with him, like him just by himself, you know, he's just super generic, you know, like a guy that could have wrestled in any era, but there's nothing really that special about him. Yeah, when he's got gold, that's fine, but you know, he's like one of those wrestlers that needs people around him to shine rather than him shining alone. Yeah, I think any kid is, you know, if you got friends, I think almost all of us have gotten put into a Boston Crab or put someone into a Boston Crab back in the day. Yeah, just like Damian Priest. You know, obviously in a faction, cool. Judgment Day, cool with Ripley. And then him by himself, he doesn't really have the aura to stand alone by himself. Even if he has gold by himself, it's like you're almost looking at, okay, who can beat him to take the gold away? You know, he doesn't have the same kind of charisma as Scott Hall, even though he's got some of the similar, you know, moves in his move set. But I would agree with that as well. Some guys need factions around them, you know, and others don't. But definitely Gunther and Priest, you could probably argue those are maybe the top two that actually need that. All right, we're down to the main event.
Wwe American vodka is for hardworking people with true American spirit. People who never just nail it out. People who rise to the occasion. Men and women who know how to get the job done. When the day is over, nothing's better than celebrating something truly American. On June 7th, Los Angeles hosts two epic events. WWE World's Collide featuring Triple H and Lucha Libre. And WWE Money in a Bank. Rise above the rest. WWE Worlds Collide and Money in a Bank in Los Angeles, June 7th. Individual event tickets on sale now. I knew McAfee was crazy, but you showed me something else actually. How you feeling? I'm good. But listen, I said this a couple of weeks ago. I'm not going to let a guy like Gunther stop me from doing my job. I've got to call one of the biggest main events in history coming up, so I'm going to be here to do my job. So let's get to work. WWE is coming to LA on Saturday, June 7th with Worlds Collide. That's at the Kia Forum and Money in the Bank at the Intuit Dome. Individual event tickets are on sale now via Ticketmaster. There's going to be plenty to talk about tonight on the Backlash kickoff show here in St. Louis. Takes place immediately following our upcoming main event. Of course, Triple H will be a part of that show. You see some of the other stars will be involved. Jackie, Jimmy, and Peter taking over the festivities from there as soon as our main event is done tonight. You know, Wwe American Vodka and WWE.
Yeah, I don't think we're going to see Cody Rhodes today.
U.S. military for your service.
Seat upgrade for the military. Shout out to them.
And Randy Orton, combined 41 world titles.
Man, look at the accolades coming in at the same time as Batista. They're in 02, 03. 31 world championships between the two of them. And depending on how long Randy can go, he might be the guy to catch up to Cena, if he can wrestle for another 3 to 5 years. I'm not sure if that's what he has in line, but definitely, guys that brought up that next generation after the Attitude Era, where we were looking for that next wave of stars to be able to root for. And even though Batista is in Hollywood now, pretty entertaining when he wrestled, back in the day. And obviously, with Cena, he can wrestle, but I guess his move set, compared to a lot of the others that have the accolades that he does, maybe not the greatest. But we also have to remember, look at Hulk Hogan or Hollywood Hogan. He was a guy that was extremely pushed by Vince, and his move set was big boot, leg drop, body slam. It was very, basic, and whatnot. But obviously he had the charisma on the microphone, with the Hulkamaniacs and obviously with the NWO. And so, sometimes, you get guys that are pushed, by, the guys that are running the show, and, they feel that might be the most marketable person, you got to pass the torch, right?
It's pronounced
You had Hogan, you had Shawn Michaels, right? You had Stone Cold, you had The Rock, At some point or another, the torch needs to be passed. Cena had his run. Roman.
Not a sound around.
No, I don't think that would be a good fit at all. Gunther has no affiliation with those guys. They already have Braun Breaker as the enforcer. They don't need another big guy, out there. Gunther wouldn't be a fit in that faction. I mean, if you were going to have a big guy join the group, Drew McIntyre would be a better fit than Gunther. Plus, nobody would want to see Gunther with Braun and fucking Seth and Heyman. He doesn't deserve to be in that group. He's not on their level. Not a good fit whatsoever.
Works naturally with your body in as little as 30 minutes. New Mira Fast. It's faster. Works gently.
Agreed. But if we're comparing, Gunther and Drew, who would be a better fit, in that faction, and Drew would be a better fit, based off his attitude. But again, they don't need Drew. Even though Drew, it could be an enforcer, they already have Braun Breaker. So it's like, you have to look at the people that are on the up and up, and, they're completely fine with just those three, But I'm not really sure if there is like a perfect, number 4, that would be, the perfect one to be with them. Appreciate you, Reefer. Thank you so much, my guy. Last month, you really did save me, though, because I needed to get, dog food for Paisley and, take care of her. And, obviously all I need to do is just get my basic stuff taken care of, the internet bill, my streaming company bill each month, making sure Paisley is fed and taken care of. And I really appreciate you, man. Reefer holding it down. Thank you so much, man. Reefer with $100 dono. Odin wasn't able to visit us, but sent me a $5 before the stream started, and because he's got other obligations and whatnot. Thank you so much, man. You know, if it wasn't for people like you doing what you do, it would be a lot harder for me to be able to do this full time. So every dollar matters. You know, whether it be $1 or $100, but every dollar is going to go towards, you know, keeping the dream alive with the basic internet fee, you know, and internet and streaming fee and Paisley. And those are the things that matter to me the most, you guys and Paisley and the channel. So thank you so much for your generosity. It'll never be forgotten. And I appreciate you very, very much, man. Bang, bang. Thank you for being loyal to the soil, my guy. Could you imagine Randy Orton in that group? Seth, Braun, Randy, Heyman. Now that would be some crazy stuff. Like that to me, I mean, obviously we know Randy's solo, you know, and he wouldn't do that. But if we're talking about a dominant, you know, faction, you know, like Evolution, you know, from back in the day and whatnot, but that would, you know, Seth, Braun, and Randy with Heyman, that they would be cooking. Thank you so much, man, for the happy belated birthday, man. And again, you know, we have some people, you know, that will, you know, be heavy hitters and help, and you know, and some come and some go. But loyalty, it really means everything. And you know, I work pretty much 7 days a week, and you know, some streams, you know, I might just give it my all, and I might be at like 5, you know. But again, there's, you know, all I can do is just, you know, grind it out and show my work ethic and show my skill set with the thumbnails, and, you know, provide a positive place to watch wrestling and sports and for people to vibe. And some people recognize it. Some people don't. Some people show love. Some people don't. And I really appreciate it, man. It's going to definitely help out a lot. And obviously all the fans here in St. Louis going crazy because this is Randy's hometown. But what are the chances that Randy actually wins? Probably, I don't want to say 0, but it just seems like very highly unlikely that they would give Randy the belt here, even though it's in his hometown. It's like you have this whole, you know, Cena, you know, storyline and whatnot. It would just be really shocking to have Cena drop the belt to Randy. You know, at least that's in my opinion. Like, would it be cool if they did it for Randy and for the fans there in St. Louis? Would be cool, you know, but based on how they have set up Cena, to me, it would be almost unbelievable, you know? So it's like, I don't really know what the percentage is, you know, even though there's 2 people in the match, but it almost feels like, and I know WWE is known for surprises, but it almost feels like 100% chance Cena wins. And normally I don't typically say something like that, where a guy is 100%, you know, more than likely, unless they throw like a curveball and pivot, you know, but yeah, and that's another thing. They don't typically let guys win in their hometown. And if you've noticed with Drew, you know, when he was there, you know, and a lot of guys, when they end up going to the hometown, it's a fun experience, you know, for the fans. But typically WWE, Reefer is correct, they typically do not let, you know, the hometown, you know, wrestler become a hero, you know, in that particular event. So now, has it happened in the past? Yes, it has, but in recent memory, not so much. One thing is for sure, we're not going to see Travis Scott today. See, this I would like. Cody Rhodes returns early, costs Randy the match, turning heel-ish, saying the only one that can beat Cena for the belt is him. When Cody goes full-blown heel after Cena's run is done, that's going to be the best version of what we're going to get out of Cody Rhodes. And whether you love Cena or you hate Cena, whether you were Team Rock or Team Cena back in the day when they feuded, or anybody that he's had a feud with, like Randy Orton, John Cena, even though he is getting older and this is his last run, obviously, it's good for business because, again, if he didn't go heel, I don't think people really would have cared because then he would have just been put in matches, on the card, but it wouldn't mean anything. You know what I mean? Like he would have matches for 2025, but there wouldn't really be a strong following or meaning. But the simple fact that, he did what no one thought he would and go heel, but he also, went heel, but didn't do it the way that everyone thought he was going to do being heel, like coming out with maybe new theme music, going back to the, Word Life, Thugonomics, John Cena, wearing throwback jerseys or coming up with a new persona and new ring gear and a new look. And, definitely taking the word heel and elevating it to a whole nother standard that like the John Cena heel turn has been different than any other heel turn we've ever seen before. Especially, when we've had guys like Hulk Hogan going to Hollywood Hogan. Obviously, that was the most shocking. But I almost feel like creative kind of dropped the ball, with Cena and Travis Scott and The Rock, and everything. Like, I think a lot of us were anticipating seeing Dwayne Johnson and The Rock on a regular basis, and it would have been like a modern-day NWO and them just taking over everything, but we didn't get that. Yeah, Rock would be shocking too, right? I was just kind of hoping that they were going to run it like NWO, where we were going to see The Rock and Travis Scott and Cena, and then you have like kind of a faction that where they're just beating everybody up and taking over. But yeah, Cena's always going to get the cheers, but they'll still have the John Cena sucks chance too, but. Maybe not as much build up as like a Shawn Michaels Bret Hart rivalry, but it's based off, their rivalry and coming up together at the same time. There are some similarities to great rivalries like those.
He is the last real champion.
Wrestling is going to be weird when Cena's gone. But I feel like you can say that about anything, sports or wrestling, when you have like iconic figures that have been on TV for like 20 years, and then all of a sudden, they're not there anymore. And obviously there's going to be a new blood and a next generation that will take over. But I mean, pretty soon Cena and Orton are going to be out. Obviously Cena this year. And I mean, Orton, how many more years does he have left? 2, 3, 5? I mean, I don't think anybody really knows that answer besides Randy. Yeah, 100%. Rock should have been on the shows every single week, after we ended up having, him show up, and then you had like, or you should have waited for that, that big moment for WrestleMania. They should have saved it for that if they weren't going to have Rock follow up you know, if he has movies and, you know, I know he's doing a Scorsese film and whatnot. And I know there was one film that he did, he got hurt and it cost like production 10 million because he was wrestling part-time and then they had to delay production. So maybe, you know, that has something to do with it as well. But, you know, they either should have saved the moment with, you know, Cena and the whole heel turn on, you know, Cody Rhodes. They should have saved that either for Mania, or if they were going to do it when they did, they should have had Rock, you know, on the shows leading up to WrestleMania. 100% agree. They definitely fucked that up and dropped the ball. And I'm not sure if that's a Triple H thing. If maybe it was more of like The Rock, you know, being part of TKO and just saying that I don't want to be there, you know, or trying to make it where it's more about, you know, Cena and not about The Rock. But if you come in, you know, as like, you know, this particular figure like NWO, you know, like you need to keep showing up. You just can't do the throat slash and then just fucking disappear, you know, after the biggest heel turn since Hulk Hogan turning into Hollywood Hogan. Like, this isn't a normal John Cena heel turn. Like, you know, he started his career as a heel, then went face and stayed that way for like 20 fucking years. So that's why it was so shocking when he did go heel, because no one thought he actually would do it. Our truth.
17 will become tantalizingly close. You know, I was sort of expecting John Cena, obviously, with his cheap little slap, but that was just to play mind games. He knew it wasn't going to hurt Randy. Randy may be in the best shape of his
Yeah, they should have saved the Cena heel turn for Mania. I mean, everyone would have just lost their fucking minds, you know? That way, that if Rock doesn't show up, it's not as big of a deal. It's still a big deal, but not as of big of a deal, you know, based off the timing of the, you know, Elimination Chamber and, you know, going through the PLEs leading up to Mania.
All bets are off now. I like that for Randy Orton. Here's Cena now, that center of the ring. You know, for Randy Orton, I've said many, many times over the years, he has absolutely no absence of bounce.
Our truth running in would be just fucking insane. I mean, he is fighting Cena on Main Event next week, but I'm not really sure how the St. Louis crowd would react to that. I mean, our truth has always been a fan favorite, but guy hasn't aged in 20 years. But I don't know. The internet wrestling community would fucking lose their fucking minds if our truth was the one that came out at the end.
So, let's re-inject a tremendous sit-down interview with Randy on the Countdown show. Very open in a lot of things that he talked about. Yeah, I'll tell you right now, this is by far the most mature version of Randy Orton I have ever seen. Oh, truly, it's the 2025, the locker room leader that John Cena never was. During his time on top. Well, I mean, you would know better than I would since you spent time.
I appreciate the belated birthday message as well, Reefer. Appreciate that.
John Cena was about one man and one man
All
only.
right, we got Orton and Cena. Obviously, this is the main event. Not really sure how long this will go or if we are going to get a run-in at the end. One thing is for sure, I know Travis Scott will not be there. He's got an obligation somewhere else. At least that's what they've said. So, and let's be honest, I think that, you know, when you get him coming out, you almost would hope it would be anybody but him, you know. I mean, I know he's really coveting this role, you know, by them using Fiend over and over and over, right? And using his music and whatnot, but definitely a different vibe compared to Dennis Rodman in the NWO with Hogan. Yeah, that's all good, Reefer. You know, you got a woman, you got kids, you got job. You know, you're a busy person. You know, anytime that you know, you can grace your presence and hang out with us and watch wrestling, it's always fun, man. You know, and you know, and on top of that, let's be real. You know, obviously the support, you know, from people. You know, you're at the top. You know, with a couple other people, and it really does mean a lot. Especially when you have a pup to take care of and you got bills to pay and you're doing this full time. So.
2025 John Cena has become. He does not own the history and the legacy of this company
I think the real question is not if Randy Orton wins today, which is the answer is probably going to be no, but is John Cena going to lose the belt once before he loses it to Cody at the end of the year when Cody ends up getting the belt back, right? I think that's really the main question. You know, is Cena going to have the belt the whole year and he's going to beat everybody? Or is he going to end up temporarily losing it, getting it back, and then losing it to Cody at the end of the year? That's more of a realistic question, I feel, in 2025. And if someone does beat Cena for the belt before Cody gets it back at the end of the year, who is it? But it's like the same kind of thing with Jacob Fatu and Dominic Mysterio. You don't want to ruin the moment, you know. It's like, you know, Cena goes heel turn, and then he only has the belt for like a month or two, and then all of a sudden he doesn't have it anymore. Like, what would be the whole point of going heel? So again, you know, sometimes, you know, they can pivot with the storyline, but in traditional, you know, wrestling speaking, you know, normally when you end up having someone that, you know, gets the belt for the first time, or there's a, you know, a special moment like a heel turn, you're not going to waste it, you know, on having a belt drop, you know, especially if it's someone as iconic as John Cena. So see, that's my thing, right? Like, I don't think Orton has a chance here today, but like I said, you know, could Cena hold it for the whole year? Yes. You know, but I think it would be more realistic for him to lose it once before he loses it to Cody at the end. But then the second question comes up, well, if he does drop it temporarily to somebody and gets it back, like at the next PLE, who is it? Who's the one that gets the belt from him? Who's deserving of that opportunity, you know? Yeah, Cena's already said that he's done, though. You know, after this year, 2025, he's done. So because you also got to think he's at 17, right? So if he loses the belt and gets it back again, then it's 18. So he gets like a kind of a freebie one, you know, at that point. Because you already know Cody is going to be the guy that gets it back at the end of the year, whenever that may be, November, December, whenever they line that up. But like, it makes you think like Randy Orton would be a guy that would be deserving, you know, of getting the belt from John. But you know, it kind of feels like, you know, this is going to be the only time that these guys are going to be battling, and then they're going to shift the feud somewhere else. But hell, I wouldn't be mad if Randy won and then, you know, only had it for like a month and added another accolade, you know, to his legacy, and then John got it back from him if they decided to go that route at some point. But kind of a tough situation. So Roman might be the only one that you could really feel like, okay, you know, like these guys have the rivalry from when their career started, you know, back in 02 and 03, but maybe Roman is the only one besides Cody that would be like kind of believable. Like this could happen. I think I'd agree with you with that, Reefer. Roman might be the only one that you could say, well, you know, anything is possible with Roman, even if he doesn't have Heyman by his side anymore, you know.
People are talking about the fact that nobody's ever going to get to 17. But if Orton's talking about hanging around another 10 years, he may do that.
But I think one thing that we can all agree on as wrestling fans, you know, with Triple H in charge, you don't really ever know. You know, like I said, we've had more surprises in the Triple H era than in maybe 15 years of Vince McMahon. You know, so again, it's like whatever, you know, and there's going to be certain things that we're going to be able to predict. Like, you know, we predicted pretty much almost the outcomes of every match in this one because this is a filler PLE. But when it comes to the major ones, that's where the surprises come. And they even come on Raw sometimes and SmackDown as well and NXT. So 5-knuckle shuffle. Because that's what makes wrestling great is when you don't know. because obviously in the Vince era, it became very predictable, right? It's like you knew who was going to win, but you didn't know how the ending would be, especially in like Brock Lesnar matches, right? Like it would ended up being some like shit fucking ending, right? But you could pretty much predict most of the winners, but maybe not the endings of the matches all the time. But now, it's kind of up in the air. I mean, R-Truth is one of the most loyal guys in the company. But honestly, if I was going to see someone have like a Kofi Kingston, Daniel Bryan moment, for me personally, I would rather have it be Sami Zayn. No disrespect to R-Truth. Obviously he's put in his dues, but for someone that's like, mid-card to main event that finally got a push with the bloodline, I think I would love to be able to see Sami have gold, and I feel like the fans will cheer him like they did Kofi when he had his run, as well as Daniel Bryan as like the true underdog. Nice DDT there. That's just me. I'm just thinking off the top, but like Sami to me is the most deserving. He's great on the mic, great in the ring, just like Kevin Owens, super underappreciated. Both of those guys should have had gold a long time ago and kind of gotten looked over and, and passed on. And, I would love to see Sami have his moment. To me, he's the perfect guy, like, again, super over with the fans, got great theme music. He's a great talker, great personality. Shit, they put him into the bloodline and made him, a household name. And I guarantee that the fans will celebrate him like they did Kofi and Daniel Bryan, maybe even more. Attitude adjustment, little FU right there by Cena. Right. More on the world heavyweight rather than the undisputed. Hell, I would love for Sami to get his hands on both at least once, Like, certain guys get buried in mid-card hell, and it took him to join the bloodline for people to notice, wow, he's actually funny. He's good on the mic. He's actually really good in the ring, but we just, have always put him in, like, intercontinental matches or lower pretty much his whole career, and I'm always about, letting others shine. It doesn't have to be the same 4 or 5 guys. You can let others have their moment. But he's number 1 on my list on having a moment in WWE before he retires. Hands down, Sami Zayn. Always loved him, even at the early days. And I love KO as well, too. I like the guys from Canada. Wrestlers from Canada are built different. And it also depends on if you're, like Shawn Michaels or Bret Hart, in the Dungeon, and Owen Hart and the British Bulldog and Jim the Anvil Neidhart, and I've always respected the way that the Canadian wrestlers have put in that hard work. 2. Yeah. But to me, those are the 2 most deserving, Sami and Kevin. Just like a guy like Dolph Ziggler, never got his chance after, getting gold early in his career and, good on the mic, great seller, and then they just, let him go. And, I feel like they did him dirty in his career. Like Dolph had a lot more to give and they, overlooked him. Another guy that I wish would have gotten a few more pushes before they pushed him out of WWE, Dolph Ziggler. RKO out of nowhere. All the fans, oh shit. Fatal four-way, man. Jacob Fatu, you know, you have to understand that he may not be everyone's favorite, but if you're looking at, you know, not, theme music or mic skills, and you're just looking at in-ring skills and entertainment value, you could argue Jacob Fatu might be one of the top, entertainer. You know, he isn't pushed as being the top guy, but as far as like being entertained every time he's out there, fast-paced, high risk, doing moves like the Hardys from the top rope, there is no one like Jacob Fatu in WWE. He is incredibly special. Another AA, another FU. 2. Jacob has the aura, but also he has the crazy. That match is like, it's not like he's trying to be someone that he's not. He's intense. He's physical. He'll talk shit. He'll give you high risk maneuvers. He gets the crowd, going, and he doesn't have to like fake Hulk up. Like when you saw Pat Hulk up and it's all like for show. Fatu is just, that's who he is. And when you end up coming across authentic and real in everything that you do, you end up, being seen by, the real fans. And, again, I haven't seen anybody with his body frame that has been able to do the moveset like him. And I'm glad that he is in WWE. Incredibly special talent. For real, man. One of the realest. One of my favorites. And I'm glad they decided to put gold on him and Dom early. Official is Don. Fatu is such a good wrestler. He could put on bangers with anybody. He could go with someone smaller like Sami Zayn, banger. Kevin Owens, someone that's like similar in his size and physicality, banger. You could go with him and Drew McIntyre, physicality, banger. Like, him and Seth Rollins, it could be banger. Like, it doesn't really matter. Like, it could be a smaller wrestler. It could be a taller wrestler, a heavier wrestler. Like when you end up having the it factor, it doesn't matter. Just like with Seth Rollins, he can wrestle anybody and it's going to be good. RKO out of nowhere. Yeah, I agree with that statement too, Reefer. 1, 2, 2. Yeah, because United States Championship has always kind of been overlooked, kind of like the hardcore title. Like it's out there, but is it really coveted? Does it have meaning? And it's like one of the lowest belts that's out there. So again, you want to make sure that you put, someone with that belt that's exciting to give it that prestige before, you see Jacob Fatu go to the next level to the Intercontinental belt, and then going from the Intercontinental belt from the United States belt and going IC and then World Heavyweight or Undisputed. So, but I agree with that as well. I mean, you want to make sure you have legacy and prestige in every belt. Yeah, Riddle had many chances though, and he was undisciplined. If you're going to be undisciplined and party and not care about your body or others, eventually, your time is going to run out with the company, and it did. I mean, if you're talking about blowing an opportunity, Riddle would be up the top of the list. And Riddle wasn't everyone's like favorite, but he was a decent performer. But again, gimmicks aside, you just knew it wasn't going to last very long for him.
Austin with the shoots at the face of Cena. Now John with Randy Orton up top. Focus here on the announce table now. Randy Orton, though, he's got John up on his own.
But sometimes change can be good. Oh, like look at Ricochet in AEW with the Young Bucks. Like it seems like that's more of a natural fit, for him to go, as a heel over there and, doing the whole bald gimmick and whatnot. Like, it seems like Ricochet is actually having fun now wrestling and getting his passion for wrestling back. So WWE has kind of this thing where they have these athletic wrestlers that they take for granted, just like the bastard Pac, right? Neville, super athletic, kind of took him for granted as well. So I'm just happy that we have, another federation for those guys to go to show what they can do. But WWE isn't the only ones that got good wrestlers. You go to AEW and you look at Kenny Omega, Will Ospreay, the Young Bucks. I mean, they got a few over there that are must-see TV too. Randy getting the table. No one has been more disciplined in their career based on working out and physique than Randy Orton. Ever since he has come up, he has been so fucking disciplined. Like, have we ever even seen a point where Randy looked fat or out of shape? Like, the guy is super dedicated, to his craft and, is going to go down a legend. Not just a legend killer, but a legend. And definitely more likable overall than John Cena. Obviously Cena's going to have the people that love him no matter what, but I don't think there's very many people that can say, I hate Randy Orton. I haven't really heard too many people say that. Here we go. Yeah, baby. Little AA through the table. And we got Mariner game coming on here in about 3 minutes. And it seems like this one is about to wrap up. Yeah, Shinsuke lost the aura. They should have, put gold around him when, when he was hot. And they, waited way too long. And the same thing goes with Asuka. Asuka, has, had injuries lately, but that is somebody that has been definitely overlooked a lot. And hopefully Asuka will be able to have her moment as well. Like Shinsuke ended up having gold late in his career, but by that time, his aura was gone. They changed up the theme music and, his look, and it didn't have the same kind of aura at the time when he first came up, from NXT when it was really special. And we know that not everyone from NXT is going to blow up, Like, remember when Bobby Roode was in NXT and that aura that he had? Not everyone ends up panning out, based on the booking. RKO! Two. Well, I the thing is that the Mariner game starts now, and then I already did make a thumbnail for tomorrow that I could use today, but then I have to do the lineups and I have to do the tag words. So by the time that this is over and then I end up getting ready, it'll already be like the second or third inning probably, and it'll be too late. So I'm just going to end up watching. You made it successful, Reefer. Like, if you didn't show up, I probably would have ended the stream, like an hour and a half in, and then I would have prepared for the Mariner game, but you came through. Obviously when I do these, there's certain people that I only really see like once a month, and you're one of them. And you definitely support to the fullest. RKO. And I don't have any regrets of not doing the Mariner stream today. So, but you made this stream successful for me today. So I really do appreciate that, you and Odin. And again, I'm going to be doing 150 plus out of 162 games for the Mariners, which is by far more than anybody else. So, and if I'm going to miss, 10 Mariner games, it's going to be because of WWE PLEs, and I'm okay with that. So. But I do appreciate you hanging out with us and supporting to the fullest. It really does mean a lot. And Aldis with an RKO. You get an RKO. You get an RKO. You get an RKO. RKOs for everybody. Yeah, because usually for me, I usually need about an hour to prep for a stream, to make the thumbnail, adjust the starting lineups, get the stream ready with the tag words and everything. So it's all good. I can end up watching it and enjoy it with Paisley since I've already been, doing this for a few hours. So, and then I will be live tomorrow at 1:00 Pacific for the rubber match between the Mariners and the Blue Jays, and I will do that one. So, and then I also will do Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday versus the Yankees. So. Our truth. Holy cow, our truth. Our truth. Because he is fighting Cena on main event. Wild. Man, our ESP is good. We're good, man. We're not going to be able to predict everything, but we're definitely going to be able to predict more than the average person. That's for damn sure. And Cena winning by cheating every single time. That's the MO. And here it is. It's over. 1, 2. Always by cheating, right? As the heel. That was cool that our truth came out there, though. And they're just about to get into the first action here for the Mariners and the Blue Jays. And for anybody that's in the room that normally watches me do Mariner streams, I apologize. But sometimes I got to be able to hang out with my boys, Reefer and Matt and a few others. And you guys made this stream successful today, as well as Odin. So I appreciate you, Odin. Appreciate you, Reefer. Matt, I know your mental health has kind of been up and down. It was fun being able to watch some wrestling with you when we typically watch Ducks games and NFL together. And hopefully that you guys enjoyed this PLE as much as I did. Obviously, the Pat McAfee Gunther could have been on Monday Night Raw. That definitely was a little bit of a disappointment. But the other 4 matches, I feel, lived up to the billing. And overall, I wouldn't call this a PLE a 10 or a 9. But, 4 good matches out of 5, I would give it an 8. I don't think I would give it an 8.5 or a 9 or a 9.5, but 4 good matches out of 5. I mean, if Vince was running it, he would have 3 filler matches that would be 5 to 7. So, it is what it is. RKOs for everyone. Our truth is like, I'm a part of the main event. He's like, no, man, it's Saturday night main event. Oh, shit. RKO. Oh, fuck. And that's kind of Cena's MO, right? Cheating and using the belt to win. Especially with this heel run, it seems like that's kind of the final ending we're going to get out of every Cena match. So, but no Cody Rhodes, but we did get the R-Truth. Anything that you want to see photo-wise, Reefer, before we go? Top of the first, 0-0 Blue Jays and Mariners. Oh, here we go. Cena, it's not over yet. Cena's going to talk some shit.
What I need is competition. And I sure as hell don't need you. Bring it in, St. Louis, because this is one of the last real.
Cena doing Cena things. Good catch there from Tavares there in the outfield. Logan Evans gets out of the inning, and we're still knotted up at 0. All right, well, that is the end of the show, and it was pretty good. I mean, obviously, for a filler PLE. Shout out to Reefer. He's the MVP with Odin. I appreciate the two of you showing some love and support, making this stream a success, even though some of the regulars were not able to make it, like Lenny D, Sarah, Odin, and a few others. But with the people that we did have, I had a great time, and again, it always helps when you can get supported, you know, when you got bills to pay and you can actually have a successful stream with the donos on top of the likes and the overall show. So it all came together. Appreciate you guys very, very much. Reefer, anything that you want to see before we go? And then I got to go take my pup on a walk, eat some dinner, and then obviously spend time with Paisley as well. Hope everyone has a happy Mother's Day tomorrow. And I will be live tomorrow at 1:00 Pacific for the last matchup between the Blue Jays against the Seattle Mariners. And I'll be watching this game that just started very attentively. Since we lost yesterday, we definitely need to rebound and win today and tomorrow. And if the Mariners are able to do that, it'll be their 10th consecutive series win, which will be the most that they've done since 2001, where they did 15. So, and that team won 116 games out of 162. So not saying that we're going to do that, but we might be able to hit that 90 to 100 win plateau, which would be great. But I love you guys, and I appreciate you guys very, very much. Shout out to Matt. Shout out to Reefer. You're the MVP. Thank you for the late belated birthday wishes and obviously the support. It means everything. Helping keep the dream alive is very, very important since I do this full time and work pretty much 7 days a week. Thank you so much. Shout out to Odin. Shout out to Reefer. And for the people that came through like Matt and Jeffrey and Hybrid and a few others, shout out to you guys. And hope you guys enjoyed the show. Love you guys, and I appreciate you guys very, very much. And I got one question for you. Who you know talk sports like us? Your boy Ryan, Northwest Sports Fanatics, and I am out. Gang.